Tell me if this sounds familiar. Your friend just got their third tattoo. Your coworker is showing off a brand new sleeve. Your Instagram feed feels like a gallery of fresh ink, and meanwhile, you are sitting there with completely blank skin. And somehow people think you are the weird one. In a world where tattoos have become normal, choosing not to get one feels abnormal. But here is the twist. No one talks about it, but the psychology of people who never get tattoos is far more complex than most people realize. Over 46% of millennials have at least one tattoo. Nearly half a generation is walking around with permanent ink. Yet, while everyone analyzes why people get tattoos, almost nobody asks why some people do not. Is clean skin a sign of a fear of commitment? Or is it actually a sign of ultimate self-control? One of the biggest reasons isn't fear, but how people relate to time itself. Psychologists call it future self-continuity. This is the ability to imagine yourself as the same person years from now. Research shows personalities and values can change dramatically over decades. Some people struggle with that connection. To them, getting a tattoo feels like making a permanent decision for a future version of themselves who feels like a stranger. It is not indecision, it is future-focused thinking. People without tattoos tend to be very good at imagining future regret before it happens. Beyond that, many tattoo-free individuals have what is called a fluid identity orientation. They see themselves as constantly evolving, unfinished, and adaptable. A tattoo feels like freezing an identity they do not believe is meant to stay still. But here is where it gets complicated. Sometimes this openness reflects growth, and sometimes it hides a fear of commitment or self-definition. The line between staying open and avoiding identity can be thin. Social perception also plays a role. Despite tattoos being mainstream, many people without them are highly aware of how they are perceived professionally and socially. Psychologists call this impression management, a strategic awareness of how choices affect reputation. For them, permanent body art feels like giving up control over future perceptions. To understand why some choose to stay unmarked, we have to look at how the brain processes rewards and belonging. Humans are tribal creatures. For thousands of years, being part of a group meant survival. Tattoos often act as modern tribal markers. When someone joins a group, their brain releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone. However, people who do not obsess over these external markers often have lower tribal instincts. Their identity is not as strongly tied to being part of a group. They are more individualistic. They do not need to belong to something bigger to feel complete. There is actual research on this lack of need for external validation. A 2019 study found that people with lower interests in group signaling showed way less us versus them thinking. They do not automatically adopt the symbols of the crowd just because it is popular. This might even be genetic. Research suggests that variations in dopamine receptor genes can predict how much someone cares about competitive spectator activities or public displays of identity. Your complete indifference to the tattoo trend might literally be in your DNA. Furthermore, let us talk about the dopamine system. For many, the process of getting a tattoo provides a hit of dopamine, the chemical of anticipation and reward. Studies using fMRI scans show that engaging in compelling activities activates the same reward centers as gambling. For some, the unpredictability of the art or the experience keeps the dopamine flowing. People who do not care for tattoos often have dopamine systems that simply are not triggered by these external modifications. And then there is a quieter, rarely discussed reason, which is philosophy. Some people view unmarked skin as a conscious choice, similar to minimalism. They believe identity exists internally, not through symbols. They do not need external reminders to remember who they are or what they love. Meaning does not require a medium. Some of the most profound people experience depth without needing to etch it into their skin. We have built a cultural narrative that tattoos equal meaning, but meaning does not depend on ink. People who choose to remain tattoo-free often score higher in openness to experience and a love of internal art and beauty. They are getting their emotional highs from ideas, nature, or relationships. They are seeking the same reward, meaning, and connection, but they are just finding it somewhere else. The absence of a tattoo does not mean the absence of attachment, identity, or depth. It simply means those things live internally. In the end, the psychology of people who never get tattoos is not boring or simple. It is about time perception, identity fluidity, social awareness, and personal philosophy. And maybe that is the real takeaway. Sometimes the absence of a choice reveals just as much about human psychology as the choice itself. Whether you are covered in ink or completely blank, what matters most is not what you choose. It is whether you choose consciously, authentically, and for yourself. If this resonated with you, you are probably going to love why quiet people are actually processing information completely differently than everyone else, and why that might be your biggest advantage.